Hello and welcome to Kingdom of Context. I'm Sean. Today we'll be looking at a viral video of a lady who is divorced from a perfect guy. Seems pretty wild to me, but thank you, sweetie, for joining me for this off-topic reaction. Lindsay, my lovely wife, is here with me.
Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Actually, she's not divorcing him. So I think that was actually one of the reasons I wanted to react to this video, because I've been seeing it on a whole bunch of, actually a lot of conservative commentators have been reacting to it, but also it's in the red pill space right now. But every video that I've seen a reaction to, they don't play her whole video. They stop it after not even a couple of minutes. And then they start going in on her for divorcing the perfect guy. But if you keep listening, what we're going to do this time is we're actually going to listen to the whole thing. We're going to hear her out completely. And then we'll go back to the start and react and, add our commentary. But I wanted to hear her out all the way because I realized I hadn't, and I had formed an opinion about her that actually isn't correct based on all these other videos that weren't playing her whole clip. So we're going to watch the whole thing and see what we think afterwards.
I don't know if I'm going to actually post this because this is super vulnerable for me and I'm a pretty open person. But earlier this year, I told my husband I wanted a divorce. And this would probably shock a lot of my friends and my family because I hadn't told anybody, okay? I walked myself through the logistics of where would I live, how would we split the time with the kids, who gets the dog, where all of those things, okay? Had a full breakdown. I feel like I have been searching for something in my relationship that we don't have for the whole time we've been married, which has been 10 years. There is not a single thing about my husband in and of himself that I do not love. Let me be very clear about that. He is the most self-disciplined, loyal, hardworking, good person that you could meet on this planet. And that is probably the reason why I have not left. Okay. Our relationship and what my expectations are for my marriage and what they always have been are not met, right? Which I don't know if anybody's are. The reason that pushed me to even bring up divorce and talk about it was the fact that I feel like I can't be myself with my husband. And it's really confusing because I'm 32 years old. I am a mom of 3. And I still don't know who I am. So for me to be like, oh, I can't be myself, or you don't love me for who I am, isn't really fair because I don't know who I am. I'm figuring that out every day. But the reason why I wanted to share this on here in the first place is we are coming up on our 10-year anniversary. We're going to Mexico, to Cabo, for our 10-year anniversary trip. And we're rewriting our vows. We never wrote vows in the first place. We didn't have vows when we got married. And I'm struggling to write my vows, like to write a vow. And I think that's because I still feel very unsure in our relationship. The one thing that we finally talked about this past week together, because it's just been something that since we kind of talked about it and I brought it up and we committed to change and we committed to working on our relationship. I started my own business, he quit his job, roles have changed, life has been crazy, and we just haven't come back to talking about this subject. And I brought it up again because I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you, like writing these vows is hard. I don't feel like we're any closer. I don't feel like anything has really changed since I brought this up 6 months ago, 9 months ago, whatever. And I want to work on our relationship. Like at the end of the day, of course, I could get a divorce and try to go find the love that I'm craving with somebody else. But that's going to come with its own hardships, its own complications, and ones that I'm not willing to take on, right? I love Ryan. He is the best father, okay? I just need to learn how to explain what I need from him in our relationship, and he needs to be able to give that, and I need to be doing the same for him, so that we can both, like, in 10 years from now, in the next 10 years, look back and say, like, we put in the work and we finally have the marriage and the relationship that we have always wanted, and that is what I want. I guess the reason why I'm coming on here, and if you've made it this long, that's really nice. What have you done in your relationship to get to that point? If you have been in a place where we are and have worked through it and have found things that have brought you closer or that have given you that relationship, like, I'm just, I guess, asking for advice. Like, what have you done in order to get there, and what has worked for you? We're honestly willing to try anything. We have done therapy and counseling before, and it was fine, honestly. It wasn't like my favorite thing, but I'm willing to try that again. And I don't know, books, podcasts, like, what have you guys done that has worked for you to get your marriage to where you want it to be? I just don't like thinking, okay, we've been married for 10 years and we've kind of like been at this same point the whole time. I just don't want to look back 10 years from now and not have tried my best to have this, like, relationship that we both want and that we deserve and that our kids deserve to see in us. So I'm kind of being vulnerable and posting this on here, but I would just like to know, like, what has worked for you and what advice, I guess, you would have for me. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Therapist Sean took some notes on this lady's testimony here, or her feelings that she's spewing onto TikTok publicly.
See, that's how a man sees it. I see it as she was actually reaching out for help and asking for advice. She had a really bad, poor way of framing everything to get to that question. But here's the difference in how men and women think. I get to the end of her thing and I'm like, oh, okay, she doesn't want to divorce her husband. She wants to work this out. She wants to figure out blah, blah, blah. And she wants input from other people. And I felt a little manipulated after seeing this video, parts of this video, multiple times on multiple channels. Even Matt Walsh, who I really respect, and normally I would think he would understand to watch to the end of the video, but when I watched his reaction, he made them stop like 45 seconds in. Stop! I don't even need to see anymore. And he just went on this like 20-minute rant about this is the problem with women today. And I'm like, hey, there might be a problem with men not listening to women very well, because she wasn't saying it by the end. She wasn't actually saying, I'm going to divorce my husband. Here's my plans. She's like, how do I fix this? And she's even thinking 10 years from now, she wants to know that she did all the right things.
Did she say in the beginning, I'm thinking about divorcing my husband?
No, she said in the beginning that earlier this year, see, this is the thing. Gotta listen. Earlier this year, she told her husband that she was thinking about wanting a divorce.
So that to a man's mind, that translates as my wife is thinking about divorcing me.
Right. And that's
okay. And so
how you guys listen to it.
So that's what she led with in a public video. That's a huge no-no, for one.
Yeah. Especially right now.
Huge no-no. That's, you just embarrassed your husband publicly. You've shared personal, private feelings publicly. With not just a good friend, not with his sister, not with a mother. You shared them publicly on TikTok. That's like a huge blow to whatever productive advice you may think you're going to receive from this video. She should have had someone proofread the video, listen to the video, and tell her, hey, you may want to reword this at the beginning.
Ideally, she would have a community of mature, older women in her life that she can go to with this kind of a question. I think that's, the social media world has kind of shifted things a bit for a lot of us, where those of us who don't necessarily have people like that to go to in our lives, we do. I'm guilty of it. We do tend to reach out to the hive mind because on the one hand, you do get I've had so much helpful advice and feedback from people through my Facebook that I never would have known. I never would have known them in person otherwise or anything like that. But then you are also opening yourself up for this kind of thing where there's this huge backlash. People don't listen to the whole video because a lot of people just hear that word, a lot of men especially just hear that word divorce, and they hear your description of your husband being a great guy, and then they stop right there. So, I think that her first mistake really was making the video and putting it out into this very fiery, triggered world right now where the battle of the sexes is raging like it's never has before, especially in America. And people didn't listen to the whole thing. So,
right. Once you listen to the whole thing, you realize, oh, this lady is the TikTok version of Paul. You got to read all the context.
yeah.
You can't just take Romans 6:14 by itself. You got to read the whole chapter. You got to read the whole book. You got to understand Paul in context. So I get it. You got to listen a little bit deeper, but still, I would say just right off the bat, my first, analysis, evaluation, my first reaction here would be very poor way to start this video.
Mm-hmm.
Not even for the public's sake, for your husband's sake.
Yes.
Very poor way to start this video. Yeah. I took some notes here. It looks like the first thing that she brought up was she doesn't know who she is.
Yeah. Do we want to watch it again, or do you want to just pull her off the screen and we can just talk about it?
Yeah, we can we can remove it if you like. But so she says she doesn't know who she is. What do you think about that?
Well, that's the other thing to really unpack in this video is that kind of language coming from a lot of women these days. And even as a woman, I don't know that I've ever said that phrase because I think I always kind of had a good sense of self. There were things about my personality that defined me. And like, I knew, who I was. I was, Lindsay so-and-so, and I did this for a living, and I had these hobbies and interests, and this is the kind of artist I was, and these were the kind of dreams I had, and the kind of things I like to do. So I struggle myself to understand someone saying, I don't even know who I am, especially at the age of 32, after being with a man for 10 years, sounds like a good man, and having children through that process. Like, to me, I would think, well, I'm Lindsay so-and-so. I'm the wife of Sean Griffin. I'm mother of Levi.
Yeah. The point of the question, though, is if you could speculate as a woman listening to this woman after you've heard the full story from what she recorded, and hearing a phrase like that in the midst of that kind of story, don't know who I am. What motivation, emotionally, psychologically, would you think would cause a woman to say that?
I think she's bored. I think she's bored with her life. She's clearly bored with her marriage. She's talking about,
I think there's more there too, but we'll get to those additional things.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree with you. I think that she's bored. This would be where the typical pastor would say, it seems as if you haven't fulfilled the godly purpose in your life. So you've got everything quote unquote handled on the surface pertaining to the expectations of the world.
Right.
And you're still unsatisfied.
Yeah.
Because the world doesn't satisfy you, right?
Yeah.
It's only the Heavenly Father, His Spirit dwelling within you, causing you to live a life of service and love to others. That's what satisfies you. And this is where modernity, the materialistic world, will tell you, oh, well, you need a husband that has that's loyal and has a good job, is in shape. You need 2 kids in a house and 2 cars. You need a retirement plan. You need insurance, and you're good. And you'll be satisfied. And then she reaches those things and she's not satisfied.
Yeah.
And so then she's sitting there going, but what if I'm not satisfied with these things, then what's wrong with me? So it turns into an introspection of, well, then who am I? What do I want?
Yeah.
This to me is a sad reality for some women that I think is the devil's playground.
Absolutely. And I think at the bottom of this all, it's a God-shaped hole inside of her that's missing. It's not something in her marriage that's missing. It's not something in her husband that's missing, because clearly she knows, intellectually, she knows her husband is a good man. He's not a man that deserves to be left. Like, she knows that. But emotionally and on a soul level, there's some wounds deep in there. There's some sort of healing that needs to happen. And that can only happen through God, and a move of His Spirit within her. So, because I can tell you that even though I never really had that kind of sense of not having an identity before I came to Christ, I still had a total emptiness inside of me. Don't get me wrong. Like, I may have not ever used the phrase, I don't know who I am, but I definitely use the phrase, I don't know why I feel like I want to die all the time. You know, like I don't know why I'm so unhappy. I don't know why I feel so empty. And I think that's what's happening with her. I think there's an emptiness that pretty much all of us have in some capacity until we come to our crossroads with the Lord, that, you know, we fill that emptiness with either with, you know, the picture perfect life that we think is we're supposed to build, and that's supposed to fill that hole, or we go the route a lot of people like me did, you know, drugs and alcohol and hookup culture and all of that, trying to fill that
Percocets.
emptiness. Yeah, all of that. So, you know, to me, I'm no psychologist or anything, but my diagnosis for her would be, you know, that she's got a God-sized hole inside of her, and she needs to, you know, take the Jesus pill as soon as possible. Not the red pill, not the blue pill.
She also says she's unsure in her relationship. What do you think she means, just within the context she gave us?
I mean, that means she's not sure if she's going to stay.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't think that she's not unsure about her husband? She thinks he's solid. She's just unsure about herself.
Yes.
Okay. And it could be fueled by the concept of doesn't know who she is statement. You know, it's funny, when I was 14, I will never forget, we finished basketball practice and we're back in the locker room and the whole team's in there, and two of these guys start kind of like arguing with each other about the fight. And then one of them ends up just slamming his locker and shouts, "I don't know who I am anymore." Exactly. And all the 14-year-old guys looked at each other and was like, "What? Like, what's that?
Yeah.
What kind of statement is that?" You know?
Yeah.
And of course, a couple of guys just laughed, but I was close to this guy and looking at him, and I'm sitting there going, "Wait, what? You don't know who you are?" And it was a weird, it kind of like definitely squashed the argument in the fight. Everyone just got weirdly silent, you know, because 14-year-olds trying to figure out that statement. And the guy was kind of he was kind of made fun of for not being extremely normal anyway. Like he was still coming into his own as a young man. He was still very much struggling in some areas, sort of social cues, awkwardness, and just being strange, right?
Yeah.
So he was struggling. So when he said that statement, though, it just threw everybody off, and I never forgot that. And I always thought to myself, but like you, I thought, well, okay, I can do this, and this. I think this, and this.
That's who I am.
I know what I can do. I know what I can think. I know what I've done. I know what I can remember personal struggles and achievements and failures. I know what I want in life. I know I want to be, you know, this, of course, my thoughts grew as I became a Christian and started to read the scriptures. And I said, I want to be a man of God. I want to serve God. I want to do what's right. I want to give my life for Christ, no matter what that looks like. I knew what I wanted to do. Now, that was because I gave my heart to Christ.
Yeah.
Had I not done that, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what kind of weird influence from the incredible seductive music of the 90s would have pulled me into in the college years. Who knows? Who knows what would have happened? But I'm just grateful that the Son had already revealed the Father to me, and the Spirit had been dropped in my heart, and that I was already wanting to be a man of God, wanting to be like Christ. And so I guess some people really struggle with just not knowing who they are.
Yeah. And I think that is also, that language is bleeding into her complaints about the marriage, because she can't verbalize what's wrong in the marriage either. She's talking about there's something that she has expected from her marriage this whole time that's never happened.
It's almost like the 7-year itch, but here it is at the 10-year mark.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like she came into the marriage having some sort of unrealistic expectation that nobody talked to her about.
Yeah. And
now here she is 10 years down the line trying to figure out, why hasn't this magically manifested itself? When it goes back to, it's her issue. She's the problem in this, without having any other context, not without knowing anything about the relationship. She's the problem in the scenario, not because she's some horrible, wicked Jezebel, but because she doesn't know God, doesn't know his Spirit, hasn't had that kind of change, and hasn't had that emptiness within her filled. So she thought she was going to get that from her marriage. That's the something that she can't verbalize, that she thought the marriage was going to give her, was that sense of fulfillment that actually only comes from God.
She also talked about the roles changed. So
yes.
She started a new business and her husband quit his job.
Yeah.
I'm like, huge red flag. Wait, what? What happened here?
Yeah.
So now we've got Mr. Mom situation, and then she's pulling in the bread. Guys, do all you can do to go out there and work. I don't care if your wife has another job that makes more money than you. Okay. I don't care if she's making magnetic pens on Etsy and making 4 times your income. Go get a job and work. It is our duty as men, as Christians. It is how you gain respect with your wife. And that's one of the underlying things I don't think she's able to articulate, but I think is a problem here is we don't know how long this has happened.
Right.
It could just be within the last 2 or 3 years where they've had this role shift, and she may not be even willing to admit that she's not feeling respect for her husband as a result of this. And we don't know what's going on here. We don't know if he got injured, if he couldn't, like there's a lot that's not said. We're going on limited information, but just in general, gentlemen, if you're listening, get a job, work your tail off, try to do better, try to earn more than your wife if possible. Pray to God. He'll help you with new skill sets. Remember, as the scriptures tell us, it's the Father who gives us intelligence. It's the Father who gives us creativity so that we can earn income and wealth. It's stated in the Torah. Lean on the Father for this kind of stuff. You must do all you can. Show your wife that you're willing to work to provide for this family. Do not let yourself fall into a Mr. Mom role, because I feel the women may not verbalize it, but they're going to feel this nagging sense of loss of respect for the man. And that to me was the biggest thing I heard her say.
Yes, and a lot of women don't even realize it. They don't, especially because we live in a culture that has programmed us to think that it's perfectly normal for a woman to be the breadwinner and for there to be a Mr. Mom. I mean, we've created that kind of environment where it's actually not okay if she admits that she's lost respect for him, because now she's the provider and those roles have reversed. So I think for us women, it's a real deep psychological thing that goes on because it's naturally programmed into us, because these are our roles that God made us for. So when you're in an unnatural role in your marriage, you will start feeling little twinges of disrespect, and that can grow and snowball.
Yeah, absolutely. She talked about going on a retreat to renew their vows for their 10-year anniversary, but she couldn't think of her vows.
Yes.
That's a sad admission.
Well, and here's the other thing. They never said vows to begin with. Interesting.
So it makes you wonder, like, what's going on with their initial arrangement? Like when they first got together, like it doesn't sound like it was very traditional.
Yeah. And this is, we've gotten to a place in society where even wedding vows have been, turned into something that, that's no big deal. It's just tradition. But I mean, that's when you're making that kind of a covenant with somebody. I mean, if you were going to go in and make some kind of legal contract with somebody, you would have that all written out. You'd make sure everything is all the legalese is correct. You have your signature on there. You take that very seriously. But for some reason, it's not as seriously taken when we talk about actually saying vows to another human being that you are promising to spend the rest of your life with through different things, through sickness and health, whatever your vows were. I just think it's probably spiritually not a good thing to start a marriage without doing any kind of vows, any kind of exchanging of, and I take you and you take me, just spiritually speaking, I think that probably isn't a good thing.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder how they got together, and seemed a little maybe way too relaxed.
Yeah.
She also said she wants to look back in 10 years and have the relationship she wants.
Right.
This is one of those statements. Now, this is actually an interesting concept, because this is what you call this is a psychological thing that a lot of women have in their brains that men need to learn. This is how women think. And this is actually one of the ways, if you're trying to court a woman, how you can build deep relationship with her without being manipulative. Okay. It is vision casting. It's the concept of sharing a vision for the future, which means it's not a reality yet. But when a woman asks a man in a courting relationship, where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, something like that? Or if a man just through conversation brings up, you know what, I would love to be married in 10 years and have 3 children to live. And you may have to negotiate the amount of children. That's not the point. But the point is, for the fact that there is a vision for the future. So when you talk about a future goal that you haven't attained yet, and you want to talk about looking back on the time period that led up to that future goal, this is what's called a time jump. And it's a psychological trick that actually endures relationship grounding, and a lot of men and women don't even realize it. So this is what a lot of pickup artists will do to manipulate women, because by your own admission, this is how women think a lot of times. They want to look back on their life and be satisfied, which means you have to get to a point in the future where you already are and have attained all those things.
Right.
And so men don't normally think like this. we do not. We're thinking about tomorrow. We're thinking about getting through the day to tomorrow. Very few. This is why men who are highly successful, they're vision casting. They set down the plan for their future, where they want to be, what they want to achieve, and they go after it. Okay. This is why men, this is what's called ambition usually, right? When you see a woman that says, "I want a man with ambition," that's what she's talking about. She just wants a man who has a vision for the future and is trying to attain a noble, honorable vision of their future self. Okay. And so I don't know if her husband's like this.
Yeah.
This could be an issue, right? Did he see himself being a Mr. Mom 10 years ago? Right.
Yeah.
Did he see himself being able to say 10 years ago when they're both 22? I don't know how old he is,
Yeah.
but maybe he's whatever. So the point is, now they're both 32, and he would, I promise you, at 22, he did not look back or did not look forward and say, "I want to look back at 32 and say, oh, I spent, part of that time earning for the family and the rest of it being Mr. Mom."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Neither one of them would have thought that would have been an attractive time jump to look forward to. So this is where men, you must learn. This is how women are constantly thinking. Think about it's like it's for anyone that's out there that's seen the Marvel movies, right? This is like an Endgame when Iron Man's talking about the Mobius strip, right? This is how he figured out how to do time travel. Or you could even let's go nerdier and go A.W. Tozer and in some more of a theological time frame, as he would try to describe time as how God sees all things at the same time at once, as if he's looking at the circle of a glass from a bird's eye view, being able to see time all together as opposed as to a sequence of events. Now that's kind of a philosophic way of looking at time outside of a temporal space. Regardless, the point is, this is why we're told to, the Father's constantly telling us the end from the beginning. This is how men should aspire to think, plan, and achieve sanctification. So I feel like what I'm gleaning from this, sweetie, is the husband. She may be, because she's on the internet, she may be really talking him up in the beginning, but the more she talks about it, it seems as if he's made a concession to not lay down clear boundaries in the beginning through vows, not attain to a clear definition of what it takes to be a man as a provider for your family, because now he's Mr. Mom, and now he's not laid down for her a clear vision of the future that she can trust in, because he doesn't understand how women think in their hearts. Okay.
And honestly, that is what Sean and I hope to help with, maybe from a meta level, with doing more reaction videos of this type within this realm, talking about, the sexes and marriage and things like that. We're hoping that we can, speak some life out into the world out there, because marriages are crumbling. And while one side wants to blame it all on women and the other side wants to blame it all on men, Sean and I look at it and we see a lack of discipleship all across the board. So women are not being raised with the expectation of marriage and motherhood, and then with the training of homemaking and how to be a wife. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize being a wife and a husband is something that you learn how to do. It's a role that you need to be taught in, that you need to grow into. And discipleship from people who are experienced, that's why that's prescribed in the Bible, is because it's not necessarily something that you just wake up and understand how to be a good wife or how to be a good husband. So Sean and I are hoping that we can offer not individual discipleship or counseling or anything like that, but just a different perspective on some of these things. I think Sean has a lot of insight and wisdom to offer the men out there. And I feel like us women, like all of us many of us seem to be desperately searching for some kind of discipleship in this area, some kind of advice, some kind of help. Men don't seem to be asking that question. And I think, especially in the red pill space, a lot of men are in denial about the fact that men set the tone for the whole world. Like, you guys are the leaders. And I know feminism has, kind of reared its ugly head and been this problem, but men had to allow feminism to begin and to grow into what it is. I mean, men have the monopoly on force. So, if it wasn't for, Rachel Wilson talks about this all the time. If it wasn't for men saying to the women, okay, honey, you can have some rights. Here you go.
Yeah, I heard the best short explanation of feminism that I've ever heard just recently. A guy said, feminism is a dude in a dress. And it is. It's literally what it led to.
Well,
but it is the concept of what you're saying.
Yeah.
If men had not allowed women to take the vote and ignore the suffragettes, ignore these women that didn't want to vote, that wanted to maintain traditional female value roles, but men who wanted to double tax the family, men who wanted to get the children out of the home and into the public indoctrination system, the camps, as opposed to the mother being the natural teacher within the home for the young child. So it is men, lawmakers, who led the way to allow feminism to continue to be supported and funded in different variety of institutional concepts that now is even led to its final conclusion, its final form, which is a dude in a dress. Because it's a man taking advantage of a woman while telling her she's more free and has more rights.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, at its core, feminism was an overreaction to some there are some actual problems with men's behavior throughout history. Like, there are some actual issues with, some men
there's been unrighteous
not
men
controlling themselves and being very unrighteous towards women specifically. So feminism, though, was this overreaction to that mixed in with it spiritualism and politics. So instead of talking about men need better discipleship, men need to be holding other men accountable. If you beat your wife, you need to be going out to the public square for 40 lashes. If you are abusing your children, like, the men of the community need to come and take those children away from you and bring you aside and have you in some kind of re-education for a little while or something. Like, there needed to be some sort of correction of some of that unrighteous male behavior.
Sure.
But what happened was feminism came along, and like Sean mentioned, the government saw, something there that they could use to control and tax people. But Sean and I are hoping that on more of an individual level, we can offer some kind of insight to people. Sean can maybe help men understand a little better, how to treat a lady. Sean and I aren't perfect. We don't have a perfect marriage with no bumps in it, but I can gladly say that I feel like if other men acted like him, there would be a lot less divorces in this world. There'd be a lot less women sitting on this internet being like, well, something's missing and I don't know what, now, as we addressed with her.
I appreciate the compliment, sweetie, but when you're done, I have some things to say.
As we addressed with her, obviously there's this underlying issue of lacking God in your life. But ultimately, like, there isn't anyone out there, really discipling men on how to be good husbands and how to treat women in a way where they aren't feeling, however, just name the feeling that women have these days.
There are some churches have some men's groups, but it's definitely not going to get viral on YouTube or TikTok.
No, I just mean like across the board.
Yeah. And so unfortunately, the language that we do see that's going viral is the concept of men allowing women to go too far, having too much power in the dynamic between male and female relationship, family, job, that kind of thing. And the men who are not standing up to that inverse power dynamic are usually referred to as a simp, because they're wanting approval from the woman and not just standing up for what's right for society. Right. So there's a problem there. And that's what I was trying to express earlier to all the men that might be listening here. It's not about it's not about being soft, overly soft in your relationship just for the sake of making your woman happy.
Right.
You can still be firm in some areas. You can still be soft in others. And I would highly encourage leaning towards your mind and your disposition being softer than you might think, right? This is a part of your growth in the marriage, as far as God softening you to remember, as Paul tells us in Timothy, They're a weaker vessel in a sense that we might need to be more gentle and delicate with them. Where the firmness comes in is what I was talking about earlier. You are a man who's establishing a presence through your goal, through your vision, through your dedication to Christ. So therefore they see that. That's the unspoken. To tell a woman with your words what you the boundaries that you want, that does nothing. You might maybe communicate it once, but if you think that you're going to have to constantly tell her to quote unquote put her in her place, you've completely missed the boat on what it means to be a man.
Yeah.
She will see what you're doing as a man, and that will allow her to see the boundaries and know her place in this relationship. And she will either follow you because you're leading, or she's going to start to try to take initiative herself because you're not leading. And that's when it gets contentious, and that's where there's issues and problems and fights, because the man starts to feel disrespected, unspoken. The woman starts to feel a lack of respect, unspoken. And this is what, personally, I could be wrong, but from listening to that young lady right there, this is what I'm thinking is the biggest issue within that young couple. I say young, but they've been at it for 10 years. She's 32. So I think that I hope that they can get some positive counsel in their marriage before this affects their children. I also just want to say real quick, though, I just think one of the worst things that I'm witnessing here is asking for public advice on TikTok.
Yeah. Yes.
That is, to me, guys, that's the ladies, if you're listening, that's the quickest way to have your man give you divorce papers.
Yeah, especially right now with, the way that things go viral. It's not just that you might get a lot of views on that video on your page. You might end up having all these conservative commentators and red pill guys using you as an example for why all women are 304s. This is why men don't want to get married. So yeah, it's a problem that also is a result, though, of the feminist destruction of the family, because women used to have a village. Women used to have a group of women used to have their mothers and their aunts and their grandmothers around. Like, people didn't grow up and families split apart and everybody moves across the country. That wasn't how it was back then. In other countries, there are still cultures where the whole family, they've got like generational family houses in places like Vietnam. I think they're called tunnel homes, that these families have just continued to build on and build on and build on as kids grow up and get married and bring in spouses and they have more kids. So I think another thing that we're forgetting is coming to social media feels like a natural thing right now, because most of us don't necessarily have those kind of good relationships in our lives to get that advice. But then you have this backlash, and you also have, for me, it's about disrespecting your husband and the privacy of your marriage by going out and laying out your dirty laundry. Now, she didn't necessarily say anything bad about her. She actually said good things about her husband. But
she doesn't realize that she revealed bad things about her husband.
Yes, that's exactly right. She doesn't realize that she definitely revealed an underlying issue that could, on his part.
Yeah, three big underlying issues, in my opinion.
But bringing all these other people in to bring their opinions, because you're not just always going to get good, nice, helpful advice. You're going to get all sides of the spectrum. So
it's the equivalent of going on the street corner and saying, I consider divorcing my husband. Can someone give us relationship advice? We may think, oh, it's social media. No, you're literally just shouting to the public. You can have all manner of advice coming your way, not knowing all the details. And this is not a therapeutic setting. She said they tried therapy in the past.
Yeah.
And how did she say about it? It was okay, I guess.
It was okay, I guess. And that's the thing. If you don't know what the issue is, if you don't know what your husband needs to do and change to fix the problem, therapy is not going to be helpful for you. It's just not. Sean and I have gone to see a counselor, and it was because we had specific things that we were needing to work through. Like, we had specific questions, actual issues to put on the table, work them out, figure out how to communicate through them. But if you don't know what the problem is, therapy is not going to help you. People on TikTok aren't going to help you.
No.
Now, I hope somewhere along the way, someone has mentioned to her that the problem is inside of her. Clearly, this is not. There are other women who do have a laundry list of sometimes valid things about their husbands that they need help with and working on how to deal with, or should I leave? This is getting dangerous. There are situations like that. She didn't have that, she's got an emptiness inside that she needs to work on. And ultimately, what I wanted to say to everyone about this girl and her husband is what they need is prayer. They don't need all of these people trashing them and she's the reason men don't want to get married and whatever people negative things might say about her husband. They need prayer. They need to be uplifted spiritually. We need to pray for her, pray for the Lord to get his spirit in her heart and just shed his light and just fill whatever that emptiness is in there and bring her the fulfillment that he brings and only he brings. Because to me, this sounds like a marriage that's absolutely worth salvaging. And she was raised in a culture that gives her all these expectations of, I made a post about this a few weeks ago and it actually went kind of viral because it really resonated because I think a lot of people see it now. And the title of it was Disney is Ruining Your Marriage, but it's not specifically Disney, but it's that fantasy that Disney and movies and TV and books, romance novels sells to us that love is this feeling that should always feel magical and passionate and magical.
It's usually, especially in those movies, it's usually associated with some sense of rebellion against your parents and some sense of adventure that takes you away from the stabilizing force of your family.
Right.
So there, we could do a whole separate video on Disney and how that's indoctrinated, satanic indoctrination to destroy the nuclear family and to destroy values. But that's essentially, that's the bigger issue, is that this unknowing sense of love, which is a feeling and not a dedication,
right,
is usually wrapped in other seductions to get you away from the God-given people in your life that would speak rationality and stability into your life before you go and jump off that cliff and decide, oh, I can't live without this boy, or oh, I'm just bored and don't know what to do. Maybe I need to divorce my husband, as if that should even be a choice.
Right.
Like, what is going on? Again, all these women having divorce parties.
Yeah.
The world is encouraging the families to break up, and at every level, guys, there's entire groups of women at jobs that are mostly held by women. And there's just nothing but divorced women encouraging the currently married women to get divorced. So this is a problem. It's a lack of morals and breaking down of morals in the society. There's huge statistics on the amount of people that are leaving the church and anything to do with the church in the United States. And it's, I guess by percentage, we might still be considered a Christian nation. I don't know even how
I think technically,
how you even know how you, like, what qualifies for that term. But ultimately, there's a lot of lawlessness. There's a lot of godlessness. There's a lot of lack of the love of God in people's lives because people are not searching out a stability of following the Bible, following scripture, giving their heart to God, laying their lives down and being selfless, serving their people, their family, their parents, all those things. This is the problem that Christ encountered in the first century. This is why it was prophesied that John the Baptist would show up to do what, as Malachi says, to turn the hearts of the fathers and their sons back to each other.
Yeah.
Because it was a state of extremely confusing and bad teaching in the first century. That's before you get to the Pharisees, who then were trying to have an overbearing of religious teaching with all their extra traditions that clouded and set aside the wisdom and the love of the commandments of God. So between the vast influence of the Roman Empire with all the intermingling of the nations in Judea amongst the people of Israel, you also have the leaders of Israel then went overboard into a extremely theocratic, right-wing type of feeling, to where it was, we need to govern every thought and motion with these extra traditions so that you don't break the commandments. But this became a problem, as Christ pointed out. And so this is why John the Baptist shows up, calling people in mass repentance, being considered a great prophet. People were listening, they were repenting. And then here comes Christ to actually teach them the fullness of God's law and show it demonstrated in reality. So therefore, the people were actually responding and people were repenting. And so this is where I don't know how many times I've said this on our channel, but like, I feel like the state of the church in America today is like a very close example of what Christ encountered in the first century Judea.
Yeah.
just with all the weird influences, with all the weird cultural pagan influences, with the overboard of the traditions of the church at the time,
Yeah.
which would be the synagogue, the Pharisees, and
Right.
Sadducees. In modernity, we have all this weird intermingling of world religions and ideas and new age nonsense and all that kind of stuff, United States, plus a different church in every corner with their own traditions on how they wanted, instead of just following the simplicity of the commandments of God and trusting God on that, they have all their own traditions and interpretations, and everyone is just confused as can be. And so this is why we're always talking about just going back to the simplicity of the commandments. So if you could be for this family here, if you could leave a small note that they didn't know that you wrote and put it on their refrigerator so that the husband and wife see it, what would you want to say to this couple?
Just one little note. I would want to tell them to read their Bibles, but that's just not deep enough. It's just not.
You would say, watch Kingdom Context while reading your Bible? No.
Yeah, I couldn't sum up what I would want to say to them on one sticky note. Because I'm just being a woman about it. I would want to ask more questions. I would want to, are you guys even Christians? I know in one video later on, she did mention God, but she didn't say anything about Jesus. So I don't know if she's one of those only God can judge me type believers or if she's really a believer. But
well, remember how many churches are out there that get people into the idea of believing in God, believing in Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But there's no discipleship or sanctification whatsoever.
Yeah.
These people are getting, Tony Robbins style inspirational sermons.
Yeah.
And then walking away with no depth and no word in their heart. So
yeah, I would say this was how I was going to wrap things up, was what advice would I give her and what advice would you give him?
Sure, go for it.
So for me, the advice I would give her is seek the Lord, get into prayer. If you do believe in God, then start praying and asking him to search your heart and show you what's missing inside of you, because it's not something that's missing in your marriage. You intellectually know that. So I would just encourage you to really lean into God, open his word, read his word, and let it speak to your heart and let it fill you up, because your emptiness is not a result of your marriage and your family and your beautiful children. Your emptiness is a result of not having enough God in your life, and you were raised being brainwashed into thinking that there's supposed to be some kind of magical romance there that's not always going to be there. And actually, marriage wasn't necessarily instituted for us just to have that feeling for the rest of our life. So I would encourage her to really look inside of herself and go to introspection, not looking out into her marriage and her family, into thinking that not having that would somehow make her feel less empty, because it definitely won't. So what advice would you give the husband?
To the husband, I would just say in general, number one, you need to let your wife know. You need to let your wife know exactly. I strongly encourage making your vows this time for the 10-year. Let her know exactly how you feel, what you want for this family going forward. You got to get back to work. I'm not sure what's going on with you. If there is an injury, I know that can make things tough. But whatever's happening, get back to work. You must figure out a way to balance whatever your wife is doing. She didn't tell us. Whatever this new business that your wife is doing, if it's taking her away from her motherhood, that's also going to nag at her, because she has active children in the home that need the mother. And so this is where I would strongly encourage, step up the leadership as a man. Let her know your vision for your family going forward, how much you care about her with the vows that you're about to write for your 10-year. Get a job, or take back up your old job, start up your old career, whatever you had, whatever you can do in order that you can be the breadwinner for the family. Let her get back to being a mother at the house, because this corporate concept or just this boss girl idea is not fulfilling to a woman.
No, it's not.
I don't care how many people say, "Oh, I'm doing it all." No, you're not. You're missing the moments with your children that give you incredible fulfillment at this stage in your life and grounds you to the family. So for the wife to be considering divorcing you with seemingly nothing wrong, there's some things wrong. You're not working. She's missing motherhood. You need to get back that dynamic that you possibly originally had. And if you've never had it, you need to get it back. You need to get it for the first time. And I think that's the biggest thing. First and foremost, the most practical thing that you can do would be to start working again, tell her how you feel, and then also give your heart to Christ. Clearly, you have to learn how to be a leader who is loving God as Christ loved the church. And this is how you lead her.
Yeah.
And so that she can feel safe within the boundaries that you're showing in your daily life, and what you want for the future, not just within how much you bring home, and not just within you picking up the slack because she's out of the house more. That's not it. That's not it at all. So that's only going off the very limited information we have.
Yeah, it's very limited information.
Yeah.
I think I saw a super chat in here.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, I wanted to say thank you to Sam. Appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you for the
Thanks,
shalom,
brother.
y'all. Shalom to you, brother. Appreciate the generosity, as well as Juan. Thank you for the generosity.
Thanks.
Thank you for the super chat,
Appreciate
brother.
it.
Appreciate it, man.
Do you want to read a couple comments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Juan, I do want to encourage you, man, that they're not all like that. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
there's a lot of women, unfortunately, I would sadly say the majority is like that, but I'm living proof that the Father can mold and cultivate a young woman of righteousness who really wants to know him, who can bring her your way. I'm not sure if you're single or not, but just be encouraged. I'm living proof that it's possible. And I was single for quite some time after I got divorced because I didn't want to pick poorly. I didn't want to, because I needed to give myself time to grow and heal, and also, be the man that I wanted to be and get better.
Learn about women a little bit.
Also, I literally read books about courting, dating, relationships, the psychology of women.
And it has helped, guys. So maybe some of you out there I know it's really easy to just dismiss women like, oh, who cares? Just shut up and submit, but it really will help your marriage if you understand how a woman thinks. And I can testify that having a husband who, there are some things that he's understood about me before I understood them, because he did all that work and research all those years ago. And he's got that insight, and it's been helpful in our relationship. So if there's men out there who are kind of scoffing at that idea of learning how a woman thinks because you think you already know, well, how well your relationship's gone? How well is your marriage going? Do you really know how your wife thinks? So I would definitely say that the narrative, I see a dangerous narrative forming up in that red pill space. That's just, again, an overreaction to the narrative in the feminist space, that now men are saying that all modern women are 304s, and they speak with blanket statements about women want this, women won't do that. And that's not the case.
The unrighteous woman won't.
Yeah, the unrighteous woman was, but I'm right here. I'm a righteous woman. And guess what? I'm a righteous woman who is saved out of being a 304 godless feminist. Like, I lived that lifestyle, and God saved me out of it, and he cleaned me up, and he prepared me to be a proper wife to a godly husband. So that's the other thing. I think a lot of these red pill people are clearly not Christians, or if they are, they're forgetting that Christ is transformative and redemptive. And of course, we want to raise our daughters not to go out into the world and be 304s. But we also don't want to look at all the women who are out there right now totally lost in that lie and think that none of them can be saved and redeemed, and they're all just worthless, because if Sean thought that way, you guys wouldn't be watching this video right now. There'd be no Kingdom in Context. There'd be no Levi. You guys wouldn't have any idea who either of us are, because Sean could have easily looked at me and judged me by my past and not by the future, the future vision that God has cast for me of being redeemed. So I definitely want to encourage you guys out there, like, please don't.
When we first met, I laid down some ultimatum, if you will. I laid down some standard of like as far as some of the negative influences in your life that I told you needed.
Yes.
I laid down.
We had some
very
boundaries.
clearly.
Yeah, we had
some boundaries before we went further in the relationship.
Here, I want to encourage women out there. There are some things that I learned about the way that men think that I never knew or understood before. Because again, I was raised in that feminist programming of there's really no difference between men and women. when Sean and I first got together, I had a best friend who was a guy. And I didn't see any problem with that. I didn't understand why my husband would have any kind of an issue with that. But I also didn't rebel against his bringing it up and him talking about, yeah, if you're going to hang out, why don't we go hang out together and that kind of thing. So I took that time to actually listen to him, and I established a boundary, and I stopped hanging out with that best friend all the time because Sean had a point. And he also explained to me that typically when an attractive woman is best friends with a guy, that guy is typically always going to be waiting and hoping for that woman to decide that she likes him. Sean could see things that I couldn't see because I wasn't thinking of my friend romantically. But I think he actually might have been thinking that way about me before Sean came along.
He was.
So, but here's the point. I didn't just immediately knee jerk to Sean and say, how dare you? You can't tell me who I can be friends with. I've known him way longer than you. I love his daughter or whatever. I took what he was saying. I valued it. I was like, okay, he's got some more wisdom and experience in life than me. And who am I to tell a guy? That's not how guys think. You don't know what he's thinking. I mean, he probably knows way better than I do what another guy is thinking. So I had that moment where I could decide to let my husband lead me in that area of our life, or to get offended and act and feel like he's trying to control me. And obviously I went the former rather than the latter. But ladies, it's just as much as it's valuable for you men out there to learn some things about women and the way that we think and operate. I think it's very valuable for women to also understand and respect the way that men think, even if we might think it's silly. We might think they're wrong. We might think they're irrational in that. But it's
amazing.
Well,
he'll sleep for 3 hours unless we decide to do a show.
How's he?
I don't understand it. It's
because he'll wake up in the middle of a nap and he'll be up for a second and then he'll go right back to sleep.
The moment we decide to do a show, he's going to take a short nap today.
It's literally only been an hour. How is he?
No way, but Yahweh, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. That's awesome. Thank you, brother.
Wow.
Now, this is just a discipleship issue. Any man with low work ethic, this is just disciple. Just like every other traits in your life, you have to disciple after. It's a discipleship issue, right? You just have to. This is one facet of your life that you need to work on, right? You just need to train and discipline yourself to have a stronger work ethic. Save your money. Try not to spend it on frivolous things. And be prepared for the future. Like the Bible instructs us that we would, a righteous man, I think it's Proverbs 11, a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So that means you need to have enough money for your grandchildren even. This is what we see the example in Abraham doing, and leaving an entire inheritance, not just for Ishmael and Isaac, but also for all the sons and grandsons of Keturah, which is a lot of children. So this is the call of a righteous man. This is what we should. Now, I'm not saying if you're in a country or you're in a circumstance in society where you lost your job and you lost your savings, I'm not saying you're unrighteous in that regard. I'm just saying this is the call. This is what we should strive to, striving towards those things in spite of the circumstances around you. Sometimes it may not be attainable if you're in a country going through a severe depression or if there's warfare or whatnot. The Father obviously sees from above. But this is the strive. This is what we're called to be as a righteous man, as we strive towards being able to be a provider and a protector of our family, a valuable contributor to not just our family, but our extended family, our community around us. And so this is where it takes discipline. I don't remember. I apologize, brother. I don't remember the books that I read. This was like 2007, 2008. So I'm sure I don't even know if you can get those books anymore. I just remember one of them I read was, it was from like the 90s even. But ultimately it's in the vein or in the category of marriage and relationships. You can find out there's many books you can read about the psychology of courting, the psychology of women themselves, expectations. But what's funny is I actually put together a course in like 2011. I put together a course and I went and talked to pastors. I used to live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's a huge, it's Bible Belt part of the country, lots of churches in Tulsa. And I spoke with some, like 3 different churches about potentially doing a course with the men of that church, as far as like, these are the biblical principles for what it means to be a righteous man, and what the traits you need to show, and how you build attraction with a woman in a good way, not in an evil, manipulative way like a pickup artist, but in a good way that you would build attraction by being godly, by applying the biblical principles. And I didn't know that as I was studying this stuff, it was actually leading me into the behavior of Christ, the apostles, people like Abraham, these people that were righteous. And because of those traits they were exemplifying as being a man of God, it was actually leading me to the Torah, right? To realizing, the fullness of God's wisdom and instructions in the Bible is applicable for me as a disciple of Christ. And they didn't go for it, right? They just didn't, but and I don't blame them, because I actually was not married at the time. So, but that was, but that was where my mind went. So for years I studied this idea, because I used to be an investment planner, and I wanted to know. I started to realize after I got divorced and it ended horribly. And I thought to myself, I've lost that investment of time. And also I'd lost time with my son, Ryan, who's 19 now. And I was going to have, split custody with him and everything. And that broke my heart. I didn't want that at all. And I realized that, the family is an investment. And so I thought, all right, well, just like with other investments, I had to learn about the investment I was making. Who's the CEO of the company? What were their quarterly earnings? What type of research and technology they're involved in with their products? What are some issues they have? They have any recalls? Depends on what the nature of their business is. I needed to know what type of thing I was investing in. And I realized that my upbringing, no one in my life had ever explained to me a woman. I was making a lifelong investment into a person who had their own traits, but unlike just a typical company, I had the entire sample of half the population of the world to draw from, as far as learning the traits and behaviors, the responses. And I realized I needed to learn how women operate, not so I can take advantage of them, so that I can know how to love them and be a man of God while knowing what to expect and be able to head off issues. And so I viewed it as an investment, and I realized I needed to learn about the investment that I was about to make. And so that's what I decided to do. I wasn't a content creator back then. It was just my own personal venture in life, if you will, because I did not want to choose someone that wasn't right for me and get married again. The statistics for divorce after a second marriage is much higher than a first, and even much, much higher as a third marriage if you get divorced again. So I didn't want to fall into that trap. I wanted to, the next time I got married, it to be forever. And so I waited, I did research, and I prayed. And I prayed, what I would consider raw and brave prayers to the Father, of like, Father, I grew up in this church setting. I don't want a girl who speaks about you but doesn't really follow you. I need someone that has a heart for you. I don't care where they've came from. I don't care if it's a reformed witch. I need someone who has a heart for you, because they appreciate you and they value you and they want to grow with you. And I was struggling finding that out there in life. She was still cooking in the oven at the time.
Yeah.
But God baked her up just right. So it worked out.
Yes, actually, I feel very blessed and honored that God chose me to answer Sean's prayer. It's pretty awesome.
Hey Barnes, I appreciate the super. He says future title for episode, help will work from NASA, but now I realize deferment is real. How to adjust with Sean Lindsay. Huh? Good day. Yeah. That show, I would just be like, immediately put on a secret body cam. Get those glasses that you can record, right there. Just do your dailies at NASA, recording everything. I'm pretty sure they probably have some kind of clause where it's against the law, but
oh yeah.
But give us that inside NASA view.
The NASA T, nasty.
Yeah, and a lot of times men get, hey buddy, how you doing? Daddy's on the screen right now. A lot of times men get jaded, they get upset because they are not patient enough to wait for the actual woman that they need, that God is building for them, that God is, sanctifying for them. And they're not willing to do the work on themselves, right? To be sanctified and ready for that woman. So they just get impatient because, guys, I get it. I fall asleep. I fall asleep super quick when I'm snuggling with my wife. It's built within us. It's peace. It's rest. It's serenity. Falling asleep alone is not good. Literally the first bad thing spoken in the Bible. It's not good that man's alone.
Yeah.
So even God knows that it's difficult for man to be alone. So I get it. But if we are impatient, we think about, this is a very small example, but even with Adam and Eve, according to Genesis and Jubilees, Adam was brought into the garden after 40 days. Eve was brought into the garden after 80 days. And it specifically says that when they got out of the garden, then he had relations with her so that Cain was born. They were in the garden for 7 years. Adam did not have sex with his wife for 7 years.
So, guys.
So he was being prepared.
Yeah.
He was being built into the man he needed to be. It was a training program in the garden. And so we must be ready. If we want a good wife, which is a good thing from the Lord, we must be ready ourselves.
Yeah. And one thing I'll mention about my testimony of coming into being a wife, I actually didn't plan on being married. After a really scary, violent relationship I had, I kind of swore off men basically forever. And I had decided I was just going to be single, get a couple more dogs, and that would be safe for me. But about 6 months before I met Sean, I felt the Lord putting it on my heart during my morning prayers that he would make me into a proper wife. And I thought that was such a weird thing to pray. I'm like, I'm not planning on marrying anyone. So why would I pray that? And God was like, just pray it. And I'm like, okay, I'll be obedient. And so I started praying that the Lord would make me into a proper wife. And 6 months later, Sean and I are having our first FaceTime. And during that FaceTime, I knew that I was supposed to be his wife. So for the women out there, I would encourage you. I think a lot of us are raised in this society with the idea that we go out and search for a man. It seems like in the Bible, typically it was a man going out to find a wife or sending out a servant to find his son a wife. So I don't know. I can't show you anywhere in the Bible where God tells women, actually, don't pray for me to bring you a husband. Pray for me to make you into a wife, because that means he's preparing your heart for that relationship. Because you can pray for God to bring you a man, and Satan can bring you a man in the meantime. And you might mistake that for God bringing you a man. So for the single ladies out there, if you're feeling that loneliness and that desire, and you're like, God, bring me a husband, maybe try to change up your prayers and focus more on yourself and you being prepared to be a wife. Because again, that is something that is not, we're given all these expectations in this society, and that is not one of them, that you actually have to be made into a good spouse. Like, it's a refining process. It takes time. It's something you need to learn. It's not something we just are programmed to understand how to do. That's why it's such a challenge. That's why everybody knows marriage takes work.
Light Source Ministries is asking, what are your thoughts on a spouse whose significant other doesn't believe in the law and commands? Are they sanctified by the believing spouse? So, Light Source, I'm not sure. I'm not going to assume that you're asking about your specific spouse. Okay. So when I give an answer, I'm speaking in generalities. Any spouse that we have that are quite not what the average person would say, well, they're not on board with the Torah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The word Torah just means instructions, guys. It's not some special category. You don't, in some special way, swear an allegiance to the Torah because you realize it's the fullness of God's instructions are applicable to you now. It just means instructions. It's also translated as the way, the path, the light, wisdom. It's God's instructions for us on how to live. Every person, I'm not I would assume that the average person who has a spouse who's quote unquote not on board with the Torah yet, that spouse is not out there killing people, R-wording people, stealing in mass, like robbing banks and stealing from old people and abusing, being a PDF file. They're probably not out there doing all that stuff, right? They probably just don't understand or value the dietary commands like you do, the wearing of tzitzits, the concept of taking a day off on the Sabbath. They may not be on board with those specific commands, but there's probably all the other commands that they're instinctively already applying into their life, because that is what churches are already teaching. Usually, not the progressive Christian churches, but
that's a whole
at least the mainstream traditional churches in the United States are teaching like 85% of God's commandments, right? So this is where I think the dichotomy, again, light source, I'm not sure if you're male or female. I would just encourage you, and I'm not talking about your spouse in general, or in specifics, but in general, the concept we've stressed this for years on this channel. We will continue to stress this till our dying breath. We are all sanctifying in our discipleship at a different pace. If your spouse is not to the same level that you are, be patient with them. Be very patient with them. Unless they're out there completely abandoning all instruction from God and living as an absolute reprobate, heathen, criminal to society, pagan Satanist who's trying to kill and kidnap and steal and do all this horrible stuff, unless they're in that regard, to which I would say, turn them over to Satan and let them go. You're unequally yoked. And if they want to leave, let them leave, right? That's a totally different situation. The average person who asks us this question, their spouse is just not on board yet with the tzitzit, the dietary, and the Sabbaths and feasts. So to me, that just calls for us who have more understanding to be more patient as we pray for those whom we hope to increase their discipleship. Even if it's our spouse or our children, we're praying for them to increase their discipleship, that Father would sanctify their hearts over time and bring an understanding to them of why it's important to apply the fullness of his commands to their life and not just partial commands, because they're already probably doing the partial commands. So take joy that they are willing to be obedient to God. They're not rejecting him. They're not out there murdering, raping, stealing, abusing. They're not out there acting completely like they're just about to get the death penalty in some states. They are following in God's ways, just partially. They just need patience and better instruction. Be the example that you want them to attain to. Do your best. And if they're not going to join you for observing the Sabbath, be gentle with them. Be patient with them. Don't accuse them. Don't blast them. Let them come along to an understanding, because they see that you are abiding in that with peace and joy, not because you're trying to teach them something they don't quite agree with or understand yet. So we can't stress enough, guys. Be patient with your spouses. You did not come to this lightly. They will not come to it lightly. Your children are still learning life in addition to how to live according to God's ways in this life. Be very patient. Be more patient with them, I would say, because they're still learning that much more. So thank you for the question. It's a great question. We have to remind folks from time to time where we stand on that. We do not encourage divorcing your spouse if they're not on board with the fullness of God's commands. If they're still stuck in mainstream Christianity and still stuck thinking that the new covenant suddenly chops off a whole bunch of instructions of God and that they just do them partially now, we do not recommend that kind of bad behavior, that kind of assumptive, destructive behavior to the family. We do not recommend Torah terrorism at all. We never have. We do not recommend telling people that they're in sin because they are adopting American traditions as far as like Thanksgiving and Christmas and 4th of July and Memorial Day, things like that. That's we strongly encourage the weightier matters of the law, love, justice, and mercy. Wait for them, pray for them in their discipleship, and wait for them to get to where you are.
Yeah, and I think Paul, I'm pretty sure he addresses that exact question and says that they may be sanctified through you. So
which means they're going to come along later.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was going to say, which I don't think means just because you're keeping the commandments, that's like checking the boxes for them. But yeah, if you're meek and gentle and loving about it, and you don't bash anyone over the head with it, then, ideally they'll be either their heart will be turned in that direction or it's going to go the opposite way. And then that's on them, But I will say that Sean and I,
Thank you, Light Source.
we don't look at divorce as an option for us. Like, it's not, to me, it's not even something I can fathom ever thinking about or saying. But also, guys, that's because I've got a really good husband who makes an effort to connect with me emotionally and is, insightful about those things and cares about fostering that between us. And he makes it a priority. So, I think it's really easy for us to look at the Bible and see a big time lack of love and romance in relationships in there and turn around and justify not trying to build any romance and love in our marriages. And I think some men might, get a little apathetic about it. And in the same way that some women may get married and then let themselves go physically, some men may get married and let themselves go emotionally, and they stop putting in the effort. They stop buying the flowers. They stop giving the random compliments. They stop saying, I love you multiple times a day. They, don't make the effort to come back into the house and give a kiss to his wife if he forgot, and then leave again. So it's really easy for me, guys, hear my voice, please. It is very easy for me as a woman to say divorce is not an option in my life. I can't even fathom it. And it's very easy for me to submit to my husband's leading because he's gentle in it. And he includes me in a lot of stuff. It's not like he's just this dictator and what he says goes. Sean actually values my input. He values my wisdom. He understands that God can speak through his wife. And so sometimes maybe he needs to hear something from his wife because it might be from God. What's up, baby? Do we need to hear something from you that might be from God right now? But I just want to encourage the men out there that you guys set the tone. Like, I know it's really easy to play this blame game and everything, but at the end of the day, the men have the spiritual authority, whether they use it or not. Adam had the authority. He had the ability to say to Eve, no, we're not going to do this. I'm going to teach and lead you better. And he didn't. So guys, if you want better women in this world, become better men. Okay. And I'm not saying that removes accountability for women. Obviously, I coach women, I mentor women in this. But it's really easy for me to be content in my marriage because I have a husband who's actually involved in making the marriage something that's wonderful to be in. And it's not through the Disney, it's magical all the time. Sometimes it really is just that.
I don't know, sweetie. I mean, I can go Aladdin on you. I can show you the world.
It also helps if you're funny.
Shining, shimmering, splendid. Tell me, princess, now when dead.
I would wager to say actually that I get a little bit more of that movie style romance with Sean, but I don't depend on it to love him.
We're running out of time, guys. I'm so sorry. Our little boy is.
You want to come say hi?
Wanting to be on camera, and he's wanting our full attention. He's in toddler stage, so this is very difficult. So he doesn't like to be ignored.
Can you say hi? Can you say hi in the microphone? Say hi.
Hello, hello,
hello. Speak in the microphone. Can you say hi?
There you go. He's got a great voice.
Guys, men, I didn't want to have children when Sean and I first met. And because Sean is such a wonderful guy and such a stable, secure guy, over time, it's okay, baby, I'm watching. Over time, that desire grew in me to have a child because Sean made me feel safe enough to do so. He just wants to get to your guitar. But take note of that. It's literally because of Sean's behavior as a husband that God changed my heart and my desire. Because when we met, I was still very much brainwashed by the world to not want that responsibility of children. But also, I really needed to grow in my trust for God, and I had a lot of fear surrounding that. But Sean really was a major factor in that changing within me. So if you've got a wife right now that's struggling with some things and you're not really sure why, some introspection is helpful for you as well. I'm not saying it's always a man's fault, but I'm also not saying it's always a woman's fault,
All right, studio's getting destroyed by the toddler here. Okay, guys, I'm trying to just take a couple more before we go. Liam, I appreciate the question, brother. I just want to encourage you that there is a certificate of divorce, even by God's approval and His Word. He understands that people break up. If a certificate of divorce has been issued and both people are away from the divorce, then you can remarry. We do not hold that stance that so many people try to take Matthew 19 and Matthew 5 out of context to say that you can never remarry. That's against God's law. They're talking about first century men that were putting away their wives without giving them a certificate of divorce. That's what makes the woman an adulterer. If you have a certificate of divorce and you're fully separated legally, covenantally, you can actually get remarried. That's okay. We also had another question. Sharon's asking, can we define unequally yoked? It could be a variety. I would say first and foremost, the biggest one is, are you a believer and is the other person an unbeliever? But then some people like to take it, getting into like different hobbies and goals in life, career paths. I think that gets very manipulative sometimes. I would say the first and biggest way that I would suggest Paul's referencing the use of that term is that one's a believer and one's not a believer. Okay. Other than that, you're going to be different people. So you're going to have to learn to grow together. And, that's the most important part.
Oh, now you're interested.
I just don't want him to do this and he'll knock it off. I just don't want him to grab it. So. Yeah, Gordon, lots of work. I appreciate at least you noticing. He says the audio is good today. Yeah, lots of work. It's crazy how so many things just don't work when you follow the directions with audio-visual equipment.
With that, let's put the sword over here where the child can't reach it. Yeah. You can dance?
Oh yeah, King G. That's how I wooed her. I was singing to her. I would like film myself singing and then send her the video of me playing the guitar and singing praise songs.
Yeah. He serenaded me at night before I went to bed.
You gotta do what you gotta do when you're 1,000 miles away.
Yeah. Yeah, he also drove straight through the night from Tulsa to Colorado to take me on our first date. So he definitely that whole being pursued thing had never really happened for me until then. Sean really pursued me. And he continues to pursue me though. That's the thing. Like,
I know, I'm like, get in there, do them dishes. I'm just playing. We actually, that's something that you guys might want to be, consider. If she cooks, I do the dishes. It's that simple, right? If she's overwhelmed with the baby, with Levi, with something going on, and I have time to do what dishes I see there, I do them.
Yeah.
Right. I try to help. My job is taking out the trash, taking care of the yard.
Yeah.
Other things.
Typical husband stuff.
I try to help out with dishes and laundry when I'm available to try to take the burden off of her. But I make it a point and priority to try to remember to do the dishes if she's actually taking the time to cook for me. So we have a dishwasher. It takes no time at all,
Yeah. And honestly, like even just a day or two a week, him doing the dishes, if I'm doing them the rest of the time, I don't think to myself, God, I'm always the one doing this, because I'm not, because I if he's watching Levi and I go take a shower, a lot of times in the middle of the day, I'll come out and he's loaded the dishwasher for me. But you know what, ladies? I also thank him for that, because we're living in a society that says he's just doing something that he needs to do, whether he's married or not, he still has to do his own dishes. Sure. Yeah, he does. But does that mean I'm not grateful when he does it when I wasn't expecting him to? No. Does that mean I shouldn't tell him I'm grateful because it's actually a boost to him and his self-esteem? Also, no, like, that was something my parents didn't have the best marriage, especially towards the end, but something that I was raised seeing was lots of thank yous for everyday, normal, mundane things.
Yeah.
Thank you for cleaning that. Thank you for cooking that. Thank you for going to work today. Like I saw thank yous being communicated for just things that we're just supposed to do. So actually, it was thankfully instilled in me to feel gratitude even for the things that he's supposed to be doing that. So, so I mean, I'm not grateful to have him around doing it. So yeah, I would definitely encourage men out there that, picking up some of the household slack, even if your wife is a stay-at-home mom, is helpful, because depending on how large the house is, it's not actually just an hour or two of cleaning a day and then you're just chilling the rest of the day with your babies. Like, it's kind of like a constant rotation thing. I wish I had been taught actual homemaking as a young girl, because it would have been a lot easier to adjust into the lifestyle once I did. Are you sitting with Bella? Note on fridge, do them dishes.
That's the love note.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we on TV? Mommy and Daddy on TV?
Yeah, that's another. Closing the lid and lowering the lid after going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's
just small little gestures.
That's one, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Figure that one out quick.
Yeah.
Yes, Serena. Living a life of thankfulness is extremely important, not only to our Savior, our Creator, Father and Son, but also to our spouse, our family members. Living a life of thankfulness and being actively aware that you are not taken for granted their value to you, their input in your life. And so, yeah. Yep. I tell my enemies thank you in the live chats before they block me. Thanks for the great work. Keep up the great work. Oh man, I appreciate you. And then they block me when they figure out who I am. But that's not the point. The point is, they said something before they started ranting about the Trinity and the philosophy and man-made tradition. They said something else about the Bible that I thought was valuable, and I thought, hey, I appreciate that, man. Keep up the great work. And then they blocked me, so that's fine.
No, really, guys, it doesn't take crazy rom-com style level gestures of love. Like, a lot of times it's really in the small, simple things. It's without even saying anything, you can do something for your wife that makes her feel loved. So, and same thing for the women. There's things that you can do for your husband that help him feel respected.
And it may not always be easy, guys. I'll let you guys know. When we first got together, I actually had, yes, I did drive out for our first date to see you overnight, but in the following months, when I decided I was going to relocate to live near you, I actually put in a transfer at the job I was working with. That didn't work out. So I went to a competing company, and the competing company had a position in Denver. So then they were to give me that job going out there. And when I got there, I realized they lied to me, and they weren't going to give me the bonus structure that they had promised, because they wanted me to lie to people during the day and not be honest with people. And I couldn't do that. So it didn't work out. Long story short, the lucrative position I thought I was going out to live near her, have this lucrative job, have plenty of money to do everything, all that fell through. And now I'm in a new state with limited circumstances and finances, and still not wanting to lose her, right? Still wanting to court her and start a life with her eventually in the future. So there was a short time where she was still working a job and I was working a job. We did get married, and we were going 50-50 on the bills, right? And it ate away at me. Okay, guys, it ate away at me. I thought to myself, if the Father, and I prayed to the Father, if you do not get me to a place where I can actually pay all the bills, and whether she wants to continue to work or not, I would prefer her to not have to work, but we didn't have any children at the time. So I was like, all right, so if you want to continue to work, that's up to you. But I need to be in a place where I can pay all these bills, because that was that was the idea. When I moved out, I was going to have a
Yeah.
really good job that was going to help me with an abundance, and all that fell through. And so now I'm in a different position, and I'm praying to the Father. I know how women think, and I'm going to lose this woman if you don't help me get back into a place where, and thankfully he got me back into a place where I could pay all the bills and she could quit her job.
And
I was working 3 jobs. Just to let you guys know. I would consider all our early days in the ministry as one of those 3, but that was a part. I was working 3 different styles of jobs, trying to make sure that we could bring in enough in order for her to not have to work or just not have to worry about the bills.
Yeah. And honestly, I would say that was one area where my former feminist brainwashing actually came in handy, because I was already in the mindset of 50-50. I pay half, you pay half. Like, I was just, any long-term relationships I had had before, were typical worldly relationships. And I worked and they worked, and if I was lucky enough to have a boyfriend who worked, we both paid bills.
she also was having to learn how to choose better.
Yeah, my picker was broken. But so when Sean came along and he ended up having that financial trouble when we first got together, it wasn't something that caused me to think differently of him, because I didn't have that expectation of him at that time. I can't speak to what would happen now, that God has, given me this role, and we've had this time of the more traditional, type of setup,
I don't care if that was your feminist mentality back then. I knew internally.
Yeah.
I knew.
No, I'm glad that
if I don't get to a place where I can provide, it's going to become an issue down the road.
Yeah.
And this is the way men and women are built, guys.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what the society tries to tell you, strive to get yourself in a place where you can cover all the bills. I'm not telling you got to make your wife stop her job, or you got to. That's between you and her as far as how she's going to spend her time, and how much of it's away from the children. That's between you and her, and you need to talk about that. But men, you need to get into a place where you are actually able to cover all the bills as on a regular basis. And so I'm not saying you got to make millions of dollars. I'm not saying you even got to make hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm just saying the base, right? The base covering of food, water, shelter. Make sure you can get to a place where you can cover those things for your family, and that's a part of being a leader in the family.
Mm-hmm. Tea.
Yeah, I guess, you know what? That's a great example. Just like this lady in the video we saw, she said that she felt unsure in her relationship. When my position at that company fell through,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to talk with you that I just can't do this anymore. They want me to lie to people.
Yeah.
I can't lie to people like this. So therefore I'm not going to make this kind of money. We gotta adjust, a big adjustment. I felt unsure in our relationship.
Really?
I just told you and everybody. I felt I'm going to lose this woman, God. This was my prayer. I'm going to lose this woman, God, if you don't get me into a place where I can provide and protect and take care of her financially.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. This is how women think. Very few women. Never in my life had I met a woman.
Rare.
Never in my life yet. At that point, I've never met a woman. That was the exception to the rule. So I understood. Not everybody is Tobit's wife. Okay.
Hey, look.
So I was unsure in those moments in my relationship, is all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And I had to pray to God to get me out of that, to change my circumstances, not my feelings, my circumstances. Excuse me. To get me out of that position of unsurety to a place where I was like, all right, now I'm taking care of things the way I feel like a man should, who's following God.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you will be able to recognize that now and give you a sense of security. And guess what? Not only did it, but then it prompted you to want to have children.
Yeah. That's the last thing I was expecting.
So, it created a change in you that was a bigger blessing than just you not being able to have to work and worry about bills.
Yeah.
Now you're like, oh, I want to start a family.
Yeah. I want to be
which
a
is
mom.
Incredible joy. So, which also gives you an opportunity to fulfill a part of you.
Right.
That you didn't know that was unfulfilled.
Yes.
So it's just,
yeah, another layer of my identity, because now I understand it's not just a mom, like I've got a different perspective on that now, where it's like the most important role you can have in the whole world is being a mom, aside from being a father. But here, I just gotta clarify that I didn't have any issues with anything that happened with Sean at that beginning, because I knew God brought us together, and I knew I was like ordained to be his wife. Like I knew it wasn't just oh, let's see how this works out. It was like, I am this man's rib. Like there was a knowing that was just instilled in me within a week of us talking to each other. So for me, it was kind of like, again, that concept of divorce and, leaving this person was just not even in my mind. So, but that's because of God. And I had a good, strong relationship with him. And I knew, that he had, brought this man into my life for a purpose. So.
King G, I would just, if you're still listening, sister, pray for him.
Did you not?
Well,
wanted
there's some things I don't, if they're personal, I don't want to put them on screen sometimes.
Oh, okay. I thought you put it on.
I
Okay.
That's why I took it immediately off.
Okay.
I should have communicated that to you before to let you know what I was doing. But sister, I would highly encourage you, pray for him, be patient with him. Just like I said previously, as I just maybe after the show, go back 20, 30 minutes where we talked in depth about this concept, about pray for them, be patient with them. See if they want to read the Bible with you, but do not take an occasion to constantly remind him of what he's not doing or how he's not being exactly the level of dedication in his walk the way you would like to see. Do not constantly remind him of that. Pray for him. Ask him if he wants to establish a weekly time where you both get together and read the Bible. Let the Father, let the Holy Spirit work in his heart to build stronger sanctification and dedication. And just continue to be patient and pray for him.
Also, I would encourage you to pray for the Lord to work on your heart and your desire to change your husband. Not that it wouldn't be good if he changed in that way, but there is something about us women that has this need to control, and we want things to be done our way because we think it's the right way. And you're not wrong in wanting your husband to have a true relationship with the Lord in your heart, but our sense and need to control can really get in the way of that process. And we can become critical about things that maybe we shouldn't be critical about. We can cause our husbands to walk on eggshells, because if you haven't expressed to him that you're not happy about this, he may still be aware that you're not completely happy with who he is as a person. And that can cause a lot more harm than good. So I would also encourage you to, just like with the lady at the beginning, go inside yourself, seek God's healing in your soul, focus on you, and ask him to help you relinquish that control and be okay with whoever your husband is right now in this moment, and trust that God's working on him, and however long that takes is up to God. And you need the help finding your patience and your contentment in the meantime. Because I won't say that there's a whole bunch of things I want to change about my husband, but I have struggled with, that sense of control and wanting to change things about him that aren't absolutely perfect. And I have realized just lately I've been doing that, and I need to stop. Oh my gosh, Lord, help me. Because my husband's a great guy, and anything that may need to change is up to the Father, and it's between them. So I would really just encourage you also to seek that kind of,
we're gonna have to stop this.
Seek that kind of relationship with the Lord in prayer.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you joining us for this. We got to hit that like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy what we're doing. If you like what we're doing, you can see more additional content on our Patreon, as well as our members, YouTube and Patreon benefits. It's an easy way to support us. We really appreciate everybody. And for those of you, that's right. For those of you celebrating Shabbat Shalom, he loves the Noah book. The first episode of Noah. He loves it. He tries to read it all the time. He can't read it yet, but he's trying.
Noah book.
Noah book.
You showing
That's right.
them? Thanks for the little commercial, buddy. You showing?
Noah.
Noah book.
He's
Are
trying
you
to.
turning the page?
Are you going to read it to the audience? Yeah,
That's
there you
so
go.
nice of you.
Good job. Read it to them. All right.
The end.
We're going to go.
The end. Can you say bye-bye?
Bye-bye.
Bye.
There you go.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.